So what happens is the etheric body then, rises up and out. The spirit looks down and says, "Oh, whose body is? Oh, that poor soul, that poor sap. They don't look so healthy." But at that state, they're at a point where all of a sudden, maybe they had a disease, or maybe they had pains, or maybe they had limitations, or whatever it was. Those were physical limitations, physical pains, physical whatever. Because they're not that body. They were never that body.
Right.
They're only the consciousness. It's the consciousness that survives.
Welcome back to Deep Roots Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Thompson, and this evening we are diving into one of my favorite topics, connecting with spirit. So if you've ever wondered whether you can truly communicate with the other side, or if those little signs and synchronicities you notice mean something deeper, you're going to love this conversation. My guest today is Chris Lippincott, an international medium, best-selling author, and spiritual teacher based in Asheville, North Carolina. Chris is also the host of Spirits Beside Us, a global top 10% podcast where he shares powerful stories of connection, comfort, and evidence that love truly never dies. So here's my conversation with Chris Lippincott. So welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored.
I'm so excited to hear more about your story. So let's start there. Can we start with your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. It's perhaps not the most usual path that most people might expect. Like many, when I was young, say 5 or 6, 7, whatever, I was in contact with energy and, I was talking to trees and animals and anything that moved. I thought, oh, wow, this is fun. This is nice. And, I thought I was just kind of all making it up because I was an only child looking for love and looking for, things that were out there. But what should have taken me by surprise was when they're all talking back to me and I can understand what they're saying and we're having a full-on conversation. But I thought, it's just me and my wonderful imagination. Of course, I went to my parents and they're like, yes, it's your wonderful imagination. Until, of course, I'm trying to go to bed and I'm in my room, no siblings, parents at the other end of the house, and I'm hearing voices in my room. I'm like, oh, it's the monsters that are coming to take me away. And I'm pulling the sheets over my head, shaking like a leaf. And then they're getting close. I'm like, oh no, go away, go away. And then I'd feel like I'm on my stomach and I'd feel a hand on my back. I'm like, oh wow, they're here. Mm-hmm. So I'd feel it physically. I'd hear it with my ear. I could feel the tingling, the energy all around me. Yes. And so this was going on for a while. So I was getting, at nighttime, I was just getting, all worked up thinking it's the boogeyman or whatever. Movies do a real trip on you, which I should not have been watching as a young kid.
We were all there once.
Yeah. I'm a lot of us are still there.
Yes.
So, I'm doing that and, then I'm getting older and older and, my rational, logical brain starts to kick in. We're kind of saying, okay, no more fantasy stories, no more, all that, stuff. So I start getting logical and suppressing it and going, oh no, that's just my imagination. It can't be real. So I suppressed it for decades, very successfully. They went away. I shut them down. And so then I got to go, make my career, go off to, Wall Street, become this financial analyst. I'm like, wow, great. I am Lord God King Poobah, all that kind of, what was it, the Barbarians of the Gate or whatever it was, whatever. So I'm just going, okay, I'm Graham, God Poobah kind of guy. I'm very, very analytical, numerical. I'm like, it's got to be proven. It has to be this way. Yep, but I'm on Wall Street and I'm stressing out. I'm losing my mind. I'm taking out all my frustrations and anger on my friends and family. So that wasn't cool. So people are suggesting, why don't you try meditation? I'm like, meditation? Don't I have to be up on the Hindu Kush and wear a turban or something? And so I thought that was just kind of silly. Till finally I ran across a track that actually, an audio track that actually sounded, okay, didn't have any agenda. I'm like, well, let me try it. And It was just like background music with a little bit of guidance. I'm like, oh, cool. And so I started listening to it before work. And then I started getting really hooked on it. I'm like, wow, this is really calming me down. I can use this. It was like, 10 minutes, nothing. So I listened to it for 10 minutes every single day before I went to work, and I was just calm. I was finding myself getting very relaxed, as it should. But I didn't really realize quite what I was doing or what I was getting into, because this was a meditation that was helping me to connect with something beyond myself. Of course, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. Just sort of a nice white, warm light up there somewhere. And I was like, oh, that's nice. That's comforting. Well, I did it for 12 months. That's a magical number in mediumship for some reason. I'll get to it. And at the end of this 12 months, I'm in my man cave, because every guy's got to have his man cave, right? Everyone's got to, got to hang out one weekend. And I go into an extra long meditation, maybe 30 minutes. And in this 30-minute period, all of a sudden, I'm like seeing these four spirits in my mind's eye, two on my left, two on my right. And I'm like, wait a second, I recognize these people, but I don't know who they are. They're familiar to me, but who are you? And I'll say the guy, because it felt like a guy, all the way on my right-hand side was the tallest, biggest, most strongest, most powerful. All of a sudden, he shoots this beam of energy straight through my chest, out through my back. I'm like, what, you mean I'm not sleeping? I'm not dreaming? I was expecting this to be a dream.
Right.
But I could feel it physically. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And next thing I know, I'm kind of like taken out of my body. I'm floating somewhere in space, or whatever you want to call it. And I suddenly feel this overwhelming calm, this overwhelming, overpowering, unconditional love that just transcends everything. The human word love is like the tip of the iceberg, that 1%. This was the other 99% below the waterline.
Oh, wow.
It was so powerful that I couldn't even put words to it. It was like pure acceptance, pure. I kept on saying, "You're perfect, you're perfect, you're perfect," and I'm like, you don't know what I've done in life. There's no way I'm perfect. No way. I'm like, oh my God, you're wrong, you're wrong. No, nuh-uh. And I just kept on coming. You're perfect as you are. Full and total acceptance, which I never felt in my life. I mean, I don't think, we're all conditioned not to be perfect. We're all conditioned not to be accepted.
Yeah.
So this was like totally bizarre. I was like, how can this be? And then it got to a point where I started feeling like I'm part of this fabric of like a tapestry that had no end, no beginning, just stretched on infinitely. But I was a little thread in this fabric, and we were all one. And all of a sudden, I sort of felt like I was one with everything.
Right. Wow.
And later on, I realized, I'm like, that's like the common thing. I'm like, oh my God, I had that. So I had to come back down, and after I kind of hit myself, I run back to my desk. I'm writing down everything I can, because I knew I was going to forget it. And soon after that, all of a sudden, all those feelings I had as a kid, the tingling on my arms, the voices, the feelings, the energy, all came just rushing back. It's like the portal reopened.
Yes.
And I'm just like, oh, whoa, what's going on? And so that's all of a sudden when I realized, okay, I got to do something with this. I got to go seek help. I got to go find teachers. I got to go, talk to all these people and learn all these things. And I realized somehow that it was not really for me, that it was more for, at the time I couldn't come up with a word, but I started figuring, oh, it's for other people. It's for the world. It's a bigger thing. And I remember soon after looking up into the sky. While I was looking up into the sky, now I look back and go, come on, they're not in the sky. They're all here. Anyway, we all think, heaven's up in the sky.
There.
So I'm kind of like, I'm looking up, talking, and I'm like, so why me? Before I could even finish the question in my head, the answer was already coming back. Oh, no, I go, why me? I'm just a regular guy. And the answer was coming back, because you're a regular guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, you guys are genius. Like, oh, I get it. You want like somebody who's kind of like a normal dude just to kind of go out and spread your word. I'm like, I don't know. I get that. And then I just had to kind of, spiral out from there.
What did your family think? Like, how did that go? Because
Good
you're
question.
a financial analyst.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was very much in the closet, as they say.
Yeah.
Very much. Because this is an evolution, not a revolution. It's not like I'm just going to quit my job and start wearing Birkenstocks, okay?
No.
That was not my path. And I mean, the first person I started dripping or teasing or suggesting stuff to was my wife.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh wow, you're getting into meditation. What's that about?" And I'm like, And then after this experience, I have to kind of tell her, well, and then I drop little pieces, breadcrumbs here every so often to kind of get her used to the cadence. And the pile of breadcrumbs started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally she's like, "Are you okay?" Because when I started hearing voices, I started thinking to myself,
oh my gosh.
Oh God, there are only two kinds of people in the world who can hear voices. They're either shamans or gurus, or they're crazy people. I'm not a guru.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm going crazy. So I thought I was for sure, I'd lost it. I thought,
Right.
I thought my job had taken my sanity.
So how long did it take you to come out of the closet and transition?
Well, it took a whole bunch of years and a whole bunch of introspection because for the longest time I didn't know where my feet were. I didn't know if I was the numerical, analytical, logical, rational person, the person I thought I was.
Right.
Or I was this mystical, spiritual guy.
Yeah.
Who, because they're at opposite extremes, right? So I'm like, well, there's no middle ground.
No, there's not.
Maybe you can do both at once. Like, one can be a side job or a side gig if you want, and maybe you can do that.
Yes.
But they're not really going to cross-pollinate. You can't just kind of go into your boss and say, "Hey, boss, guess what? I'm a medium." What? They'd kick you out.
I know. Yes.
So it took. I guess it was actually a good thing because that I took that long, because it took that long not only for me to kind of understand myself and understand my path and understand where I was going, but it also took that long for me to understand what spirit was about, how to work with spirit, how to work with what they were giving me. Because this was not something that I was like, "Oh yeah, look at me." It was very much like they were kind of like drip feeding me, kind of the way I was drip feeding my wife. They were drip feeding me all this information, all this I don't want to say knowledge, but understanding.
Yeah, yeah.
And our spirit is our best teacher. You can go to a regular person who teaches you spirituality and teaches you how to be a medium and teaches you all the things you need to know, but that'll get you so far.
Right.
At the end of the day, spirit's going to teach you exactly what you need to know. They're going to give you all the arrows in your quiver. They're going to give you all their tools in your toolbox. And they're going to be your hardest trainer, like a gym. You go into a gym and like all of a sudden the trainer's going to say, "Okay, well, today we're going to do this series of exercise, and next week we're going to do the next." And so it's like you do this like series of exercises, and you're like, "Oh, great, look how strong I am. Oh, I'm plateauing." And then all of a sudden the trainer shifts it up on you and you're down here again. You're like, "What?" Same thing as mediumship. You'll learn a whole bunch of skills. You'll get really good at them. All of a sudden spirit shifts it up on you and you're like, "Oh, crap, I can't do that anymore. What are you doing to me?" And so like you feel like a failure because all of a sudden they're having you focus on something else.
How did you determine that it was spirit instead of your imagination or ego?
Good question. That is perhaps the most common question that I get when people say, well, how do you know it's spirit and not your own head? The way that you can tell that it's spirit and not your own head is
Right.
when you're getting a thought out of the blue, not part of your own normal stream of consciousness. Boom, it comes, what?
Yes.
That is spirit.
Yes.
When it's part of your stream of consciousness, A, B, C, D, E, et cetera, which is kind of leading you from thought to thought to thought, that's your stream of consciousness. That's your own mind. That's your imagination.
Yep.
But I hesitate to even use the word imagination because that's the way that spirit works. They work with our right hemisphere.
Yes.
They work with our creative brain. Your logical brain is your ego mind, is your analytical, rational, tries to explain everything away and box it in certain capacities. Whereas the creative mind is very much the way a child is, which is one of the reasons why children are so sensitive to spirit. You've probably heard of stories like every single child says they've got an imaginary friend.
Yes.
That's not an imaginary
It's
friend.
not.
That's actually spirit. A lot of times kids will be talking about, hey, I just saw grandpa, and the parent gets raging, so angry. They're like, how dare you? They've been past 2 years. You can't.
But they really
Well, guess what? Grandpa's hanging out. And,
I know.
I mean, that happens so many times. So, but the reason why is because these children have not yet gotten to the point where they're taught to be rational, logical, analytical. They're not really told, no, you're not supposed to. Well, there you are, but you're not. That's not the way they think. They're still in terms of, unicorns and flying dragons and anything's possible.
Yes.
So their creative brain, their creative mind is basically the dominant part of their head.
Yeah.
So that's what spirit works with. Spirit's always working with our creative mind. So if you're, how many mediums are artistic? Most of them.
Most of them, yes.
They're very artistic. They're very creative. How many mediums or sensitives are empaths or come from healthcare or teaching or something? Because they've got that sensitive soul, a sensitive being. They're empathic. They're thoughtful. They're caring. Is that logical? Is that analytical? Is that rational? No, that's coming from the creative side of the head. And that's what spirit works with, and that's how they come in. So that's why I say, getting back to your question, when you feel something coming out of the blue, you're going A, B, C, and all of a sudden R comes in, you're like, what?
Yes.
That's
I know
coming
exactly
from-
what you're talking about. And you saying that was you didn't know this, but it was confirmation for me.
Oh.
Because that's been, obviously, like you said, that's one of the number one questions that people ask. I've had some pretty profound experiences during meditation when I started really meditating. And this has been in the past year and a half, 2 years probably. And I know for a fact who I was connecting with, and it was, I had confirmation. It was in the beginning, so at first I thought it was just me going crazy.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I was like, where did that come from, and why in the world would I think that? And so, but of course I got confirmation, and then I stopped getting the communication. But it was kind of like you just explained. I moved on to something else, another part of the puzzle, another piece of the puzzle, basically. And but it wasn't long ago, I just would get these random thoughts. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking that. And I said, this must be messages from spirit or my conversation with spirit. And you explaining that perfectly, and it was point on to what I was thinking, and it's kind of like I needed confirmation. And that's exactly what you just gave me. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'll send you my bill.
So you brought up the 12 months. What does that mean in mediumship?
Well, what's so interesting is that it's really sort of considered to be the time of gestation, if you will, because it gets you to the point of being like sitting in the power, which is a specific kind of meditation, which you may have heard of. It's that type of period where you're sitting and allowing your mind to start getting used to silence, start getting your mind comfortable with silence, starting to get your mind comfortable with expanding beyond itself, starting to feel that you're not only expanding, but that you're actually connecting with something beyond you, out there, whether that's spirit, whether that's source, whatever it is. You're feeling that that energy, that powerful love coming into you, and you're like, whoa, where is this coming from? And in the beginning, you're kind of like, okay, you're not quite sure what it is, and sometimes you kind of want to open up an eye to see what's going on. I know I did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of like going, uh-oh, who's there?
I was actually scared at first too, though.
Yes, exactly.
Like at the very beginning, I was afraid to open my eyes.
100%. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I was exactly the same way. Remember the ghost stories I was telling you when I was a kid?
Yes.
That came right back into my head. I'm like going, I got to sit here in the quiet. Oh, God. Okay. And we can talk about why that cannot happen later, because there's a specific reason why that's never going to happen. But getting back to the 12 months basically allows your mind, your brain to gestate to the point where you open up completely and you've totally connected with spirit. And one way to look at it is in England, which is where Arthur Findlay College is based, they do not allow you to even join a mediumship circle until you have been sitting in the power for 12 months.
Nice.
For that very reason.
Yeah.
I mean, is it 11 months and 10 days? I don't know. but I think they're saying you're supposed to sit for 12 months.
Right.
And I just happen to have done that magic number without even realizing it. And that's kind of what's so crazy about this, is that for years and years, I don't know, probably 2 decades, these books about spirituality, NDE, all this kind of stuff just would crop up in front of me. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Oh, that looks cool. Oh, that looks cool. Let me read about this. Oh, that looks fascinating. So I had this voracious appetite for research studies and NDEs, because remember, I'm still very rational, logical.
Yes.
But for some reason, I had this appetite for the non-physical. And so I'm reading it for 2 decades. But isn't it curious that Spirit's kind of like leading me down this path? I was like, okay, read this one, read that one. And they were all the biggies. I'm like, oh my God. And I look back at it, I'm like, holy smokes, look what they did.
Yes.
Like, damn, they knew what they were doing. And I think the joke becomes, they tried to get me early on. They tried to recruit me. I shoot them away, and then they said, "Okay, we'll get you later." Now you're recruited.
Yes. So when did you figure out that you could communicate with past loved ones?
I think the first time I figured it out was when I started hearing my parents.
Yeah.
And the rest of my family members, because basically by the time this all started to happen, my entire family was dead, physically dead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They had all passed on, and so I was, for all intents and purposes, an orphan, if you want to call it that. I had my wife and my son. That was it. So I had experienced, the passing of loved ones. My dad died when I was 18. My mom died when I was 31.
Right. Wow.
And so everybody just basically, that was it. So I was like, my world was turned upside down.
Yeah.
Everybody I knew, and then some, was somewhere else. So I was like, okay, well, and that's what I find is oftentimes there's always a catalyst. It's either a tragic passing of a loved one, or for women, childbirth. 2 massive life changes.
Yeah.
Because and they both have to do with life, either life creation or life transition.
Interesting.
And
I've never thought about the childbirth part.
Yeah. Well, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
That's a real bit, or an NDE.
Yeah. Yes.
Same thing.
That's what actually got me started on just kind of doing more research and looking into things. I travel for my job, and I'm actually in healthcare.
Okay.
And so I started listening to podcasts, and I'd come across like NDEs, and I'd listen to them, and it just spoke to something inside of me, and I had no idea like what that was. But that's where I started getting interesting in just spirituality and all the stuff. And it has opened the doors to so much. And I've said it so many times, my world has been completely blown by learning all of this, and I absolutely love it. And my brother, I grew up an only child, and my brother died when we were kids, and we named our son after my brother. And when he was 3, he said, and we had never told him about my brother yet because he was 3, right? I mean, there was no need at the time. And so he told me that he was jumping on his bed, just like happy-go-lucky. He's like, I want to go back and visit Uncle Russ and go where he lives because it's so beautiful. I have the chills right now thinking about it.
There you
so
go.
at the time, I knew nothing about any of this. Didn't know that I believed in any of it. Like, I didn't know it was real. And I said, what'd you say? And he told me again, just as happy-go-lucky, and I had to just kind of walk out because I did not want him to know that I was upset or scared or anything or had any emotions about it, but I was just trying to figure out, like, what just happened.
Yeah.
So my brother was coming, and I truly believe that he's a spirit guide, but he was coming to visit him.
Yeah, totally.
And nobody knew.
Yeah. Exactly. And that happens so many times. It's kind of like that story we were talking about before where parents will hear their children talk about, a loved one, whether it's, a brother, a parent, whatever, spouse, and they'll just talk about it as in a matter-of-fact way.
Right.
It's like, oh, they're sitting right there. Can you see them?
Yeah.
And the parents like, no.
No.
What's kind of sad is that a lot of parents, maybe because of the way they're brought up, maybe it's their tradition, whatever it is, their culture, they get really angry.
Yes.
And so the child learns to suppress it. And so they're like, oh, that's a bad thing. Well, I can't talk about that. So then they immediately internalize it and start saying to themselves, well, this must not be right. This must not be real.
Yeah.
Whereas you'll get other parents who come from other traditions, other cultures, other beliefs, who encourage it, talk about it. And that's where the nature-nurture thing happens, because so many times you'll hear mediums say, oh, yeah, well, mediumship or, my psychic abilities, that's been in my family. It's not so much physically in the DNA, it's culturally in the way people speak.
Yes.
It's either accepted and encouraged. So you start talking about it, learning about it, and that helps you build your skills.
Yeah.
Or the opposite. You're suppressed. You're not talking about it. It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So
or evil.
Mm-hmm. Or worse, evil. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the number of times I've had people, say, "Oh, you're speaking the devil's tongue." I'm like,
you have.
I'm like, okay, hey, power to you. I guess we're not in the same wavelength.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna go in a number of times that even in the Bible that they said mediumship was, a normal thing, but just
I completely agree. Yes.
Well, I wasn't going to go into a debate with them. I was like, okay, you and I just apparently are not going to get along.
And that's okay. We
that's
don't
okay.
have to.
We don't have to.
That's right.
I'm not here to convince anybody. If you don't want to believe, power to you. Your loss, not mine.
Exactly. I completely agree. Completely.
We were talking about how scared we were in the beginning. We were scared of monsters and ghosts and evil things and whatever. Or sometimes maybe people in the beginning, they're worried about, there might be like this negative energy or this negative power. Mm-hmm. We got to do all these rituals to protect ourselves. Well, the reality is, and you can even think about it from a physics perspective, we all have free will. The universe there's a universal law that states that nothing can interfere with our free will. It's a universal law. So without your consent, and so you don't even have to be, do rituals or protection or whatever it is, so long as you're making the intention to bring in what it is that you want.
Yep.
Love, light, highest good for all concerned, whatever it is. So long as you set that intention, that's your will, boom, that's your shield right there. And I didn't know that for the longest time. So kind of like you, I was like keeping one eye open, or I was like, oh, I got to do these spells, or, oh, please. But even the fact that, if somebody does a prayer of some kind, that's still setting an intention.
Right.
So whatever it is that makes you comfortable, a prayer, a ritual, it's the mindset, it's the intention that you're putting out there. That's all it is. And that then is an answer to a question a lot of people say. It was like, what about Ouija boards? Can't you, people bring out
got
Ouija.
That very question.
Yeah, and they're like, what about Ouija boards? And, then people bring out bad spirits and I'm like, well, why does that happen on a Ouija board? Because you're messing with a portal that you're opening. A, you don't know who's going to come through that portal. And B, you haven't even set the intention.
Right.
So you're basically like opening the door in a crowded city, just letting anybody in. Maybe you'll get somebody nice, maybe not somebody who's not nice. If you're in the Bronx and you just left, would you leave your door open? Not that there's anything wrong with the Bronx, but if you're in a bad neighborhood or a questionable neighborhood, would you keep your door wide open in the middle of the night? I don't think so. So it's all about intention. What is your intention? Do you want to invite them in? Do you want to say, no thanks?
That's right. It is all about intention. And I shared that very thing not long ago because someone was worried that they would let evil in or dark energy. And I said, if you have good intentions and you set your intention, you will not be able to accept it or spirits.
That's why the symbols of light versus dark, or light versus darkness, whatever you want.
Right.
That's why it's so powerful, because you can understand the concept. If you take a light bulb, turn it on, all of a sudden, and you're downstairs in a dark room, what happens to the darkness? It goes away.
It goes away.
All of a sudden, the room becomes light.
Yes.
Well,
that's right.
What is light symbolic of? Love, high vibration, positivity, whatever you want to call it. That just means that when you bring light to the darkness, it dispels the darkness.
Great analogy.
It's as simple as that.
It is. You're absolutely right. And that makes perfect sense. So how does all of this relate to the quantum field?
So that was the one thing that really, quantum physics was the one thing that helped me bridge the physical, logical, analytical world of Wall Street to the experiences I started to have when I started going into the non-physical world.
That still had to have been so difficult in the beginning
because
for you.
I was literally on two opposite extremes. I'm like, how do I can't get there from here.
Yes.
Toto, not in Kansas anymore.
Right.
So for the longest time, I was like, well, how? And then somehow I don't remember how, but somehow I came across quantum physics, and I started learning a little bit about quantum physics. A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, by the way. But I started learning about it, and there are a series of basic laws that stipulate that everything within the non-physical explanation that we've just been talking about is actually supported by quantum physics, and you can just even get into regular physics. I mean, let's talk about regular physics to start with. We're talking about vibration, right? Everybody says, well, that's vibration. That's really nice. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Well, think about the concept, if you want to get really basic, and this is kind of the way I start out explaining it, is everything is vibrating. Everything in our world You know, go back to your chemistry or science. You know, you look at the atom. Atom's constantly moving. You got all these neutrons and protons, and they're all kind of swishing around in the atom, right? And we know that when there are that we have different states of matter. Look at like an ice cube. Ice cube can either be a solid, a liquid, a gas, whatever, right? So we got all these different states.
Right.
Well, what do the different states represent? When you're in a solid block of ice, what are the atoms doing? They're in these molecules that are moving really slowly. This vibration, the oscillation, it's just like jelly. It's just like hardly moving at all. So, very low vibration. What are we? We're mass. What's an ice cube? Mass, matter. We've got the same density, give or take, of an ice cube.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what happens when you melt an ice cube? You heat it up. You excite the electrons. You excite the atoms. The atoms are start to moving around in the molecules, so the vibration rises. So you're heating up the ice cube. It starts getting more excited. The vibration starts to rise. It changes state. Now we've got a liquid. Keep heating up that liquid, and what happens? You've got even more excited vibration, moving faster and faster and faster. And then the next thing you know, you've got a gas. Keep going, and you've got plasma. So you can keep on exciting these vibrations, and then you go from a solid matter to a plasma to a non-physical state. And we're nothing but like that ice cube.
Oh,
we're
wow. Yes.
We're in that solid state. You accelerate the vibration to the point of non-physical existence. It's still there. It's just vibrating at a point that we can't see it.
Yeah.
So use the analogy of the fan blade.
Yes.
You know, you got a fan. It's not moving. You haven't plugged it in. You can see all the blades, right? Plug it in, turn on the switch. What happens? You can't see the blades anymore.
I mean, the blades, yeah.
Does it mean they're not there?
No.
I would suggest that you don't go in and find out, because it'll hurt you. Because it's still there, but it's just moving real fast.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's like it's like X-rays. It's like gravity. Just because you can't see it, smell it, touch it doesn't mean it's not there. Same thing with physical. So that's really sort of like the basic physics of it. Quantum physics states that like the Copenhagen principle, and there are a couple of other laws, like saying that you can have energy in every place that exists at the same time. It just takes another piece of energy to actually consolidate it. So it's like everyone says, well, how can all of my energy, my angels or my guides be helping everybody else and help me at the same time? That's because they are everywhere. We're just in this thought process of being here, when in fact here is, I can get into a whole philosophical concept of why we're not really here. But that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And then there was one big one that really did it for me. The whole concept that we are energy. We were just talking about the vibration state. Well, if you go into a carbon atom, go right in and take a look at its nucleus. Take that nucleus and expand it to the size of a golf ball. Okay, real big. It's got a nucleus and it's got an electron, one electron. That electron is going to be, if you've got the nucleus the size of a golf ball, the electron to be 2 miles away. Everything else is empty space.
Yeah, right.
99.99999% of everything in existence is just empty space. It's just energy. So we think we're real. We think this is, I can feel that.
Yeah.
It's not real. All what you're feeling is electron repulsion. Electrons will never touch. It's like magnets. Like you got opposite ends of the magnet.
Right.
They'll never touch. You can never get them to touch. Why? Because they're the same polarity. Electrons, same polarity. They will never touch. So
So what's happening again? Explain that.
So when we think we're actually touching,
Yeah.
we're feeling the repulsion of the electrons at the end. They'll never touch. So if you zoom in on your fingers, in a quantum microscope, if you will, you'll see these two electrons going, and they'll never touch. I think it's 10 to the minus 8, whatever number that is.
Yeah.
They'll never touch, which just means that we are nothing but energy.
Right.
So we think, so it feels real, but we're not.
Yeah.
So you go into a quantum field, you go into a quantum size, everything's just energy. And it just goes on forever. There is no matter.
And energy can't be destroyed. It just changes
Energy
forms,
can
like you just explained.
That's the other thing. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change form, like I was talking about at the very beginning. It goes from state to state to state to state. So because we're energy, it can't be destroyed. It can only change form. So what happens to us? We're energy. We just change form.
You really did explain that so well, and in a simple way where I think people can understand it.
Well, that was what I was saying. That was the only way I could get it. I was like, wow, now it makes sense. Yes. I get it. I'll buy it.
Exactly. So can you explain to us what the transition is when we do have a loved one pass away?
Okay. So a transition is actually very easy to explain. A transition is essentially when the physical body stops operating, the heartbeat stops, the brain stops, and it no longer is able to function by itself.
Right.
So when that happens, you have your physical body, and then you have a 7-layer energetic field around you called the aura, and that entire 7-layer field then separates from the physical body. Beforehand, it's tied by I'll call it a tether at the solar plexus, and every night, it stretches infinitely long. Every night you go out to the astral plane and you're tethered, so you come back. But if your body ceases to function, the tether basically disintegrates. And that allows the aura, your auric field, your energy barrier, your first layer, your etheric field, to actually then move to a different state, which is one of the reasons why a lot of times, for example, in NDEs, people, maybe they're on the operating table and they feel themselves rising up to the ceiling, and they look down, they're like, who is that person on the table? I don't recognize them. They look really familiar. Who are they? But that's the same thing every single time. And Spirit, in all of their communications with me and all of their automatic writings of the last 150 years, they've all said the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. The volume of this information is so large that you would take it to a courtroom and it would have to be, judged in favor of that, just based on the evidence. So what happens is the etheric body then, rises up and out. The spirit looks down and says, "Oh, whose body is that? Oh, that poor soul, that poor sap. They don't look so healthy." But at that state, they're at a point where all of a sudden, maybe they had a disease, or maybe they had pains, or maybe they had limitations, or whatever it was. Those were physical limitations, physical pains, physical whatever. Because they're not that body. They were never that body.
Right.
They're only the consciousness. It's the consciousness that survives. So if you want to think about it from the case, think about you, yourself, me, myself, and I. That person that you call me, has that person aged? It's the same person that when you were age 5, 55, 105.
Yeah.
When you think about yourself inside, you're like, oh yeah, you're still talking to yourself the exact same way. That person never changes, is ageless. That's the consciousness.
Okay.
That's the part that finally separates from the physical body. The physical body, you'll definitely notice, has a change, but the consciousness never ages. You're still talking to yourself like a kid, at least I do.
Yes.
But the transition, the etheric body and the whole auric field, move up and out. The spirit, the consciousness, now is like, wow, I don't feel any of the physical sensations that I had when I was in the physical body, because you're not in the physical body anymore. So you're not getting those physical sensations. Thus, you're suddenly feeling light, happy, clear, high vibration. Everything's peaceful because there's no pressure. There's no time. Nothing matters anymore. You're like, wow. And the constant thing that comes up over time, over and over and over again, is that they're like, oh, well, I'm so glad I woke up from that horrible dream. That really sucked. Because they keep on talking about, the life on Earth is like a nightmare. They're like saying, that's just a bad dream. I'm so glad I woke up from that one. Oh, God. Because they always come back and they say, I feel more alive than I did when I was in the body.
Yes.
So what does that tell us? This is really a dream. Which kind of gets back to a lot of philosophies that say that very thing. That this is a dream. We are not really here. What we are experiencing right now, this instant, is an illusion.
Yeah.
And it is nothing but a reflection of our ego mind. And you can separate your ego mind from your consciousness and suddenly realize that, hey, what I'm experiencing is not something that I need. So I'll just turn it off. And you start to become aware of being aware.
Okay, so let's take it one step further. When we have a loved one pass, right, or any of us, but we can communicate, or you can communicate. But then we have other lifetimes. Like, how can we still communicate with a loved one that has passed over, but we have different lifetimes?
Well, let's first define the lifetimes. In reality, because we think in a logical, linear fashion. We're thinking, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 1,000, whatever. So we're thinking in terms of time. Time doesn't really exist. Right. Time is a man-made construct. Why? Because we measure versus the sun. Ancient, cultures measured everything by the sun. We picked it up, and a day is not actually 24 hours because every 4 years we got to add a leap year, or whatever it is. And it's that kind of thing. So time is a man-made construct, and if it's a man-made construct and it's a physical thing based off the sun, if you go into the non-physical, how do you deal with time? There is no time.
Exist, yes.
And here's proof. When you're just totally into something, you're like filled with joy, you're like racing around, and like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Maybe like you're a kid in, summer vacation and you're just like having a blast. How fast does time move? Blink of an eye.
Yeah.
When you're in the drudgery and you're like, oh, this sucks, I can't stand this work. How fast does time move?
It's so slow.
Like an inchworm. Did time really change? No, it's perception.
No, that is such a great point.
So time is all relative. Who said that? Albert Einstein. Theory of relativity. So time is man-made construct, doesn't really exist. So when you get to spirit, there is no time. So when that's just one thing. So when you think about lifetimes, in reality, lifetimes are not in a linear fashion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all happening simultaneously.
Right.
So it's just
that will blow your mind.
Yeah, that's the whole concept. Is it?
Yeah.
And here's another one. I've experienced this a lot, and probably you and a lot of your listeners have. You may have had either a case of quote unquote deja vu, or people have said, "Hey, I just saw your twin walking down the block the other day. Were you here?" And you're like, "No, I was on vacation." Like I could have sworn I saw you. was no deja vu. That was where lifetimes literally intersect.
Yes.
Because they'll be having the same experience, but it just the
Wow.
dimensions cross.
Yes. Never thought about that part of it.
So you're living the same lifetimes, you're living the same life, but it's just all of a sudden the dimensions cross. And there's so many cases of that. So getting back to your main question, I think about, how do we connect with a loved one who is crossed? Are they going to, reincarnate, or do they have to wait for us? Well, the number of human years that a spirit waits is typically, I think the number is, I think they quote say somewhere between 50 and 75 years on average. I forget where that number comes from, but put it this way, they don't immediately jump back into the meat suit.
Right.
There's no real desire. They're like, oh, I'm on vacation.
They really
I'm not
don't want to
going,
come back.
I'm going to take my time.
Yeah.
Although there's a funny anecdote about that, about how many times they actually do want to come back for crazy reasons. So there's a lot of time, human time, between the period when they transition versus the period that we will transition. So a lot of people are worried. Okay. Oh, are they going to stick around for me? Oh, how are they going to reincarnate before I get there? Oh, you better believe they're going to be hanging around, because love is the bond that never breaks. Love is what connects you. And furthermore, another concept to understand is that we are all a soul family. We all travel in packs. So if we're all traveling in packs and we're all taking on different personas, different costumes, we're all going to hang out and wait for the next for everybody to kind of get back together. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do. So the perfect analogy is, think of it like a traveling troupe, like traveling actors. Like we go from theater to theater to theater to theater. We just change costumes.
Yes.
Maybe the next go round you'll be the baker down the street, and I'll be the farmer. And then after that I'll be the wife, you'll be the husband.
Right. And then in that lifestyle, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're throwing on different costumes, but we're the same actors, just wearing different costumes, going to different theaters. That's all.
That is so fascinating. And I kind of off the subject, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
The Mandela effect. What do you think that is?
Mandela effect.
Are you familiar?
No, I'm trying. I've heard it, but I can't think.
So the Mandela effect is, Mandela. He was in prison. He got out, was president or something. Okay. There are. I can't believe that you don't know. I really would love for you to look this up.
I may know it, but it sounds.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So there are a number of people, which I don't remember this part, but I'll get into something else in a minute, but that remember him dying.
Yes. I remember this. Okay. I thought. Yeah.
So
they all this has happened a couple of times. They all thought he was dying, and then all of a sudden he's somewhere else.
And that's right. Yeah. He's in prison. Then he gets out of prison. They're like, no, he died. So he can't be getting out of prison. So Ed McMahon, what did he do? Do you know? Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
All I remember about Ed McMahon is his funny laugh.
Okay. So do you remember him working for a publisher's clearinghouse?
Oh, yeah, sweepstakes. He was always doing the commercials.
Yeah, with the big check at the door with the balloons.
Yeah.
Never happened. So.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going with this. You're going with the impression that we think we see something when in fact that thing never happened, like Skippy Peanut Butter, or Jif or whatever.
I think it did happen. I think that it somehow we have. I don't know if it has to do with like timelines, like you said something about dimensions earlier, and that's what made me think of Mandela effect. But I have a theory, because the first time I ever heard it, I said, there's way more to this than, and I think there's something there. And I've had a couple of them that is so real in my life. And I didn't even think about it until like me researching all this. But like even my brother that passed away, at his grave site, he had a foot marker. And it said his initials, and I remember it, what color it was, everything. I'd clean it off when we were kids, or when I was a kid, and it was there through high school. And then it disappeared. Not there. So I went and got a shovel to like dig it up to find it, because I was convinced it was there, and it wasn't there, and like nobody else remembers it but me. And anyway, but that's the same thing with like the Monopoly man. Did he have an eyepiece? We all remember the eyepiece. He didn't have an eyepiece. There's no eyepiece. Things like that.
Yeah.
The Bible, it's changed. There are hundreds and hundreds of things that have changed. And I mean, the masses, like there are more people than not that remember it happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so side note, just
Okay.
if you look that up and figure it out, I'd love for you to just share it with me. So I
Sure,
will start racking my brain. So what are some of the most profound moments that you've experienced in readings that have like left you speechless? Or I mean, what are some of those moments? Because I know that you have them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd have to say that the most profound moment I've ever had in a reading was when I was giving this reading to a young woman who didn't tell me anything about her. It didn't tell me anything. And I'm just connecting with this man who starts coming in, and he's just giving me piece after piece after piece. I mean, it's just flowing like water out of a fire hose. I'm just like, holy smokes, great communicator, unbelievable. He was telling me exactly how he passed, what the scene was, what the car accident scene like, what the police were, time of day, his favorite color, the songs that they listened to. I mean, it just got to be so intimate, so specific. I mean, the woman was just like bawling. She was like, she's going back and forth between bawling and exploding with excitement.
Absolutely, yes.
Because then his personality's coming through, and she's like, "Oh my God, I can practically feel him." So, it was just beautiful. And then near the end of the reading, I'm like, "This is odd. He's getting down on one knee." And she's like, and I'm like, he's got like a box in his hand and he's like stretching it out. I'm like, and like she starts to shake. I'm like, the box is opening and inside's a ring. I think he's proposing to you. Were you guys talking about getting married? And she just like loses it and goes, yes, we think he was about to propose to me the next day. And we're just like, oh my God. And I said, well, he's proposing to you now. And she goes, yes, I say yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is incredible.
That just blew my mind. I was just speechless. I was like, oh, okay. So that's just one more piece of the puzzle that love never dies.
It never dies.
It's very interesting that I don't want to say the quality of the communications, but the details that the different communicators bring through vary from person to person.
Yeah.
And when you start to think about it, the analyst side of me comes in, it makes sense because we each have our strengths, right? Some of us are more visual, some of us are more communicative, some are more emotional. So those strengths are exactly what they elicit in the reading. That's how they communicate. So let's say a person was an artist. They were very incredibly visual, right? And they painted a lot. So they'll be bringing through what? Clairvoyance. They'll be bringing through thousands of images, and I'll just like seeing like what turns into a movie. Or maybe the person was a musician, and they'll just like be throwing all kinds of music into my head and things that are relevant to the sitter. But I'll be hearing all the songs that I recognize, and little tidbits. I'm like, oh, they're putting the song XYZ into my head, and it's got this snippet. You understand that? And all of a sudden the phrase has a meaning, and they're like, yes, I get that.
Yeah.
Or they'll if they're like very like very expressive, like this insane personality of like they're just outgoing, fun-loving kind of personality. They'll just bowl you over with that. I mean, there's an example, another outstanding reading where this guy wasted no time coming in and letting us know exactly who he was. He comes in from my right side and he goes, "Hey there," and he's got this big mug of beer. He goes, "You want a drink?" I'm going, okay then. We know who you are.
Yeah.
And no sooner had I said that than the sitter goes, "Oh my God, yes, I know exactly who that is."
Oh, listen.
Because it's the personality that identifies the communicator in an instant. It basically paints them back into 3 dimensions instantly. Because how do you describe your best friend? Do you describe them like a cardboard cutout? Well, like they're 6'3" and they got brown hair and yada, yada, yada. Or do you describe their personality?
Their personality.
You describe who they really are on the inside. That's how they come through. That's how they describe themselves.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
It's all about the personality and the emotion.
So, does everybody have these gifts?
Yes.
The ability, I guess, is
100%. I'm so glad you asked that. I meant to get there. Everybody has the ability to connect to spirit. And here's why. Because we are spirit.
Right.
We're spirit on the inside.
That's right.
And that's the one thing that is so important. Everybody goes, "Oh, well, that's just for the gifted people. Oh, that's just for the unique. That's just for the people who happen to spend a couple of years up in the mountains doing whatever." Smoking the funny stuff. Everybody has that ability. It's just a question of, it's dormant. And put it another way, everybody has psychic senses. We've all got intuition. We can all feel it in our stomach. Like, oh, my gut's telling me to do this, or I didn't really feel good hanging out with that person. They got a weird vibe. That's like your psychic senses. Maybe you go into a room when there is just a horrible argument. You feel it. You're like, you're like, you're weirded out. You don't want to be there anymore. You're like, hey, let's get out of here. You feel it. It's the vibration. So everybody's got psychic senses, and that's all it takes is just to know that you have those psychic senses. Know that it's innate. Think of it this way: before humans had communication, when we were basically, call us animals, back when we were animals, we were relying on our psychic senses, our non-physical senses, to understand what was going on around us and to communicate. Animals still do. We just happen to have that when it was in our hind brain, at our back of our brainstem. But as we evolved, the brain kept on getting bigger and bigger. We get a frontal lobe, and all of a sudden, this stuff went dormant. So the psychic senses and that were in the hind brain, the ancient brain, went dormant. Now we're using something else, but they're still there. They're just buried. So if we learn to raise them and to use them, it's like muscle. Use it or lose it.
Right.
So we've all got that ability, and you have a greater ability of being a psychic to a human because it's just the same level. Same vibration, as opposed to going vertical, if you will, if you want to think about it that way from a vibration perspective, because you're now trying to connect with a higher vibration. But you can do that. You just have to allow yourself to get to that higher vibration. Meditation, spiritual practice, whatever it is. But you can do it. And that's why the equation, all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums.
Psychics are mediums, yeah.
Why? Because mediums use psychic senses to connect to a higher vibration, but psychics only use their psychic senses to connect with their own vibration, their own lower vibration, the human vibration. So if you want to look at it, like on an XY axis, again, the analyst in me coming out, the psychics will be on the horizontal plane, and the mediums will be in the vertical plane.
So you mentioned meditation, and we've talked about that too earlier, but so are there more practices, like daily practices that people can start doing to help strengthen this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say that people can do is to get into a meditation practice. And there's a lot of resistance to the concept of meditation practice because everyone says, oh, I can't meditate. The second I sit down to meditate, my brain's going off in a different direction. I'm thinking, did I take out the garbage? Whatever. Well, yeah, that's going to happen because you're still in that ego, rational, analytical mind. That's normal. You just have to allow yourself to get to a place of, let's say, when you're in, maybe you're taking a bath, it's like a hot water, you're just like, oh, Calgon, take me away. That feeling, that's what you can experience in a meditation.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of meditation it is that resonates with you, whether that's a music, a guided, background sounds, chanting, mantras, whatever it is. It's just something that you have to feel comfortable with first. And then the other thing is start baby steps.
Yeah.
Do it for like 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then 3 minutes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And don't be hard on yourself. Everyone says, oh, I've got to sit for an hour. I can't do it. And it's like those kind of things are going to be difficult for you to work with. So start small, work your way up. Remember when I just started, I just was doing background music and I was doing it for like, 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. I didn't know what I was doing, but it's like, oh, this feels calm. I can do that. So do that, and try to make it more consistent. Focus on the consistency, not the duration. It's like working out a muscle. Yeah, if you go to the gym every day, you're gonna build up muscle. If you go to the gym every month, a couple times a month, you gonna see any change? No. So definitely the thing to do is work with meditation. In small microscopic bits.
So, okay, share about your podcast. And you just had a really big accomplishment on your podcast, haven't you?
Yeah. My podcast just crossed over 100,000 downloads. I think now it's 107,000 downloads.
That is huge.
It's in 108 countries. It's top 10% in the world.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations!
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and this and for the spiritual genre, that would put me. I don't know what the rankings are, but apparently, according to ChatGPT or whatever, it's supposed to be pretty good. I haven't seen, but
that is incredible. So, and what's the name of it?
It's Spirits Beside Us, which is the same title as my book, because this was basically a follow-on to my book. They both talk about the same thing. The idea is exactly the same, that spirit's not up there. It's right here with us because we are sharing the same space, just in a different dimension.
And how else, what other ways can people find you? I know TikTok and YouTube, of course.
People can find me on TikTok. They can, find me on YouTube. I've got, the Spirits Beside Us podcast is also on YouTube. But it's under, either my name, Chris Lippincott, or Montclair Medium, which is also the website, montclairmedium.com. They can, find me on Facebook, Montclair Medium, the podcast, the book. Those are kind of like some of the big ways.
Perfect. And I will link everything in the description too. So I have one more question for you.
Sure.
If you could deliver one universal message from Spirit to everyone listening right now, what would it be?
The big universal message would clearly be focus on first loving yourself. And when you begin to feel the love within yourself, you'll start to emanating love to other people the way a lighthouse emanates light to the ships below and illuminates the darkness.
Oh, that's incredible. Thank you so much. And Chris, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I have enjoyed this conversation so much.
Me too. It's been a lot of fun.
What a beautiful conversation. I hope you felt the same sense of peace and clarity that I did after talking to Chris. His story is such a powerful reminder that spirit is always communicating. We just have to slow down, listen, and trust what we feel. If you'd like to learn more about Chris's work, I have linked everything in the description. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who's been craving a deeper connection or a little spiritual reassurance. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. So thank you so much for listening to Deep Roots Wellness Podcast. And remember, you're not alone on this journey, and you're exactly where you're meant to be.